Welcome back to the channel. In today's episode, we're tackling the controversies that are shaking up British politics again. From new proposals to extend smoking bans to Labour's housing reforms stirring the pot, there's a lot to unpack. But first, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to stay in the loop on the latest political updates. First up, the proposed extension of the smoking ban to outdoor spaces like pub gardens and football stadiums has ignited a firestorm within the Labour Party.
My starting point on this is to remind everyone that over 80,000 people lose their lives every year because of smoking. That's a preventable death. It's a huge burden on the NHS, and of course it's a burden on the taxpayer. So yes, we are going to take decisions in this space. More details will be revealed, but this is a preventable series of deaths, and we've got to take the action to reduce the burden on the NHS and reduce the burden on the taxpayer.
Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer is no stranger to internal opposition, but this latest policy could trigger yet another rebellion from his own MPs. Mary Glendon, Labour MP for Newcastle East, has already made her opposition clear, criticising the move as an overreach of government power that could harm struggling sectors like hospitality. According to her, extending the ban outdoors where second-hand smoke risks are minimal is not only unnecessary but could also lead to pub closures, with some documents suggesting as many as 3 pubs a week could go under. The economic impact on pubs and local businesses is becoming a focal point of the debate. Post-pandemic, many pubs are already struggling, and Glendon argues that the proposed ban could be the final straw for some. However, Starmer's stance remains firm. He emphasises that the policy is part of a broader initiative to reduce the 88,000 smoking-related deaths annually in the UK.
You said when you became Prime Minister you wanted politics to tread more lightly on people's lives. This is the opposite, isn't it?
Look, I think it's important to get the balance right, but everybody watching this who uses the NHS will know that it's on its knees. We have to relieve the burden, and that's why I spoke before the election about moving to a preventative model when it comes to health. I want the NHS back on its feet, but I also want it fit for the next, 75 years, just as we've had a brilliant 75 years already. And that means taking action in relation to preventable deaths, and these are 80,000 a year preventable deaths.
It's a bit like beef and Yorkshire pudding, a beer and a cigarette. I can't see a problem there.
I do think they should have a designated area. It's freedom of choice, isn't it?
So just because you can't smoke outside of a pub, mean everybody's going to give up smoking? They're not.
Campaigners have welcomed the ban on both health and economic grounds.
Starmer, the health benefits outweigh the economic risks as he aims to ease the burden on the NHS and tackle preventable deaths. The Prime Minister has promised more details soon, but the internal discontent within Labour is mounting. This latest proposal comes on the heels of other internal party disputes, such as the backlash over the 2-child benefit cap and winter fuel payment cuts. Now, some MPs are calling for a free vote on the smoking ban extension, suggesting that MPs should be allowed to vote based on personal conviction rather than party lines. This could be yet another leadership test for Starmer as he tries to navigate these growing rifts within his party without further weakening Labour's unity ahead of the next general election.
I want to ask you finally about plans to ban smoking in public gardens. Is this something that you are considering as well as other outside areas? And if you're not considering that, do you think it's a good idea?
I start with reminding everybody that 80,000 plus people lose their lives through smoking every year. That's a huge number. That's a huge impact on the NHS. And of course, the cost is picked up by the taxpayer. And we can't walk past that. We have to be clear about preventative measures. So yes, I do support the measures. Obviously, the detail will be set out in due course. But I want us to move to a smoke-free environment. I want to reduce those preventable deaths. I want to reduce the burden on the NHS, desperately needed, as everybody will attest. And obviously, I want to reduce the burden on the taxpayer. So yes, I'm supportive. Details will be set out.
As Labour deals with internal friction, External critics like Lee Anderson from Reform UK and Nigel Farage have jumped into the fray, seizing the moment to launch their own attacks on Starmer's leadership. Anderson blasted Starmer on social media, accusing him of Stasi-style censorship, a reference to ongoing parliamentary debates about whether MPs should be allowed to host TV shows. Farage, always eager to stir controversy, followed suit by warning that Labour's bullying tactics would not go unchallenged. With both internal and external opposition ramping up, Starmer is facing pressure on multiple fronts. And if that wasn't enough, Labour's new housing reforms are adding more fuel to the fire. Under the proposed Renters' Rights Bill, landlords would be restricted from evicting tenants for up to 3 months if they miss rent payments, an increase from the current 2 months. Additionally, the reforms aim to ban no-fault evictions, giving tenants more security but leaving landlords worried about their ability to reclaim properties. Legal experts have voiced concerns that the already overloaded court system could collapse under the weight of these extended eviction periods, leading to long delays for landlords trying to reclaim their properties. These housing reforms have sparked intense backlash, not just from landlords, but from critics who argue that Labour is prioritising tenants over economic stability. Public opinion remains divided, with some praising the reforms as necessary to protect vulnerable renters, while others warn of the strain on small-scale landlords. The backlash is feeding into a larger narrative that Labour is trying to manage too many controversial policies at once, risking further political fallout. As if the situation couldn't get any more complicated, Starmer also has to deal with comments from London Mayor Sadiq Khan, who recently suggested giving recently released prisoners priority in social housing. This has sparked outrage from critics, including veterans groups, who argue that British families and veterans should come first. Khan's statements have been labelled despicable by some commentators, including Nigel Farage, who accused Labour of putting criminals ahead of British citizens in need of housing. Final thoughts and conclusion. In summary, Labour's recent policies, whether it's smoking bans, housing reforms or social housing priorities, are stirring up controversy both within and outside the party. Keir Starmer has a full plate, juggling public health goals with economic concerns, all while facing rebellion from his own MPs and fierce opposition from the likes of Farage and Anderson. Will he be able to hold it all together, or is Labour on the verge of fracturing under the weight of these issues? That's it for today's breakdown. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you agree with Starmer's smoking ban? How about Labour's housing reforms? Don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into British politics. Thanks for watching, and take care.